Welcome to Your Number Man, where we share financial strategies, business insights, and inspiring stories to help you navigate a successful business. I am your host, Johan, and my goal is to help you achieve a bigger life in business. Today I'm joined by Con Kutsikas. Now Con is got a lot of experience in sales. He's also been 30 years in a commercial experience, but his real claim to fame is that he's a dynamic keynote speaker and he's teaching practical communication. Con is also one of my fellow mates at our mentorship panel at the Polaris Business Center. And today we're probably not going to talk too much numbers, but we'll definitely discuss how communication may have a massive impact on your business success. And it leads to more sales, better staff motivation, and eventually leads to bigger business numbers. That's it. And I'm pretty sure by the end of this program, we're all going to talk like pros, because Con has done a little bit of coaching, not formal coaching, but whenever I see you at a mentorship panel, I always look up to Con and the way he speaks. I say, geez, I just wish I can speak like Con. I'm rambling away here. Good, welcome, mate. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much, Johan. Absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Now, there's obviously that was a little short introduction. I know you got a lot more accolades and everything, but is there anything big that I perhaps should have mentioned? The rest of the stuff is going to come out in the interview.
Look, you've summed it up quite well. My business entrepreneurship journey started, 35 years ago. And one thing that I wish I had have known back then is that people like you existed, being able to analyse my numbers. But my journey's quite long, and from a business perspective, sales was key. And interestingly enough, and for the listeners, one of the questions I always ask people in workshops and seminars is, by show of hands, who's in sales? And typically you'll get the professional salesperson who identifies and puts their hand up. But the majority of other people don't. And the reality is we're all in sales because we may not be selling a physical product, but we're selling ourselves. And people buy from people. And that's something that I adopted on my journey, which helped me become successful from a sales perspective. And so that's why I'm really, really passionate about communication, because I understand that it's fundamental in all our relationships, whether it's business or personal.
That's amazing. I love that answer. It is so, you're right. Sometimes you're just trying to get a point across. You want to speak to somebody about issues in the work performance, or you want to phone a client or whatever, and you just wish you probably know that you're good in sales or speak to people, but you don't have that finesse, that just to punctuate your communication method a little bit better. And that's why you're probably so successful in your coaching as well. That's what you do. So what else is what big things in your life right now? I know we've
goodness me. Yeah. Obviously, one of the big things at the moment is I'm very excited to be on the Polaris mentorship panel with some wonderful people such as yourself. It's certainly it's a learning curve for me as well, because as the great Jim Rohn said, you're never too old to learn, and you're never too young to teach. And so to that end, even as we get older, I'm still learning, and from the people that I'm involved with, there's always a lesson. And for me, that's the continual growth, the continual learning is a really, really important aspect. So for me, the Polaris Centre is definitely a big thing at the moment. I'm looking at a couple of fairly exciting projects, which I can't mention just now.
Okay.
But looking at what I'm doing in terms of my coaching and speaking programs. But stay tuned for that. More on that later.
I will definitely. And I want to be a part of that, because I need to work on that finesse as well. And you got to tell me. I know a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, what is this accent that you've got?" Sounds like I've got a hot potato in my in my throat sometimes. And, and some people don't know, am I Russian, am I Dutch, am I German, or, you're South African. So, and that's something that I don't know. Some people say it could be a little bit of a help with a little bit of, individuality, but you're also going to be able to use it right in your same. Have you got a...
Okay, let me... Here's something that's really, really important. Many clients that I work with, English is their second language. And there's a common misconception that the accent is the problem. The accent's not the problem. The accent is of interest. It makes the person unique. But the mechanics of speaking English and the mechanics of speaking another language, whether it's South African, whether it's Indian, whatever it is different. And so the challenge with people where English is their second language is the diction and the clarity. In other words, the mouth movement.
Yes.
Typically, there's a lot of mumbling. The mouth doesn't open as much. And so that's why there's no clarity. So it's not the accent.
Yeah.
It's the way that we move our mouth.
And if English people talk, they sound so posh. You almost
yes, well.
But it's perhaps is it perhaps because they pronounce their words, or they're really good at pronouncing their words right?
It's the way they open their mouth, and it's the diction. And one of the best tools is tongue twisters. And the famous one, Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. And back when we were in school, it was a challenge to see how quickly you could say it. But in training, particularly when it comes to speaking and communication training, it's more about exaggerating the mouth movement and really emphasizing the syllables. So instead of Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers, it would be Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers.
Is that how you would train yourself if you're standing in front of the mirror?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
over pronounce it.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
And then you'll get better and better and better at it. Yes. So then probably a good question to ask is, what is the most powerful shift someone can make to improve their communication, to have a positive outcome on their business? Because, as you know, my business, this podcast is aimed at people as interested in business. Perhaps people want to start at entrepreneur. Some people are already in business. Some people want to be entrepreneurs. But how can you say the powerful shift is how can you have a positive outcome in your communication in business?
That's a great question.
It's a bit long-winded, but you got
okay. Let me give you a bit of an analogy. You went into business, as most people do, with a belief that they had value to offer to the market and that they would be successful. Fair?
Yep.
Okay. Communication is exactly the same. You either think you can or you think you can't. Either way, you're right. So from a communication perspective, it's important to have a positive dialogue with yourself rather than I can't do this and I'm no good at that, being I'm improving or I can do this. Our mindset ultimately dictates our actions, our behaviors, and ultimately our results. If I don't think I'm good at sales, I won't be good at sales, and therefore it'll have a negative impact on my business. But if I improve my communication skills and have a more positive mindset in terms of I can do this or I am good at this or I will, then that's going to have a positive impact on your numbers.
I get it. So it's a lot to do with the mind. I think I can, therefore I can. I don't know who said it. Probably read it in some book, something like that. And so and then you use the 4 pillars as well. We talk about the mind, the body, the voice, and then language. And the mind is then that first pillar.
The mind is fundamental.
Yeah.
The mind is fundamental. What we think, the stories that we tell ourselves dictate our actions. If we don't have a belief that we can do something, then we won't do it. And therefore we won't reap the benefit of whatever that action is. And what I say to people, I can teach you how to speak, I can teach you how to move your hands, I can teach you body language. But if you don't understand the key psychological aspects, not only of your audience, but of yourself, it's a bit like having this beautiful home with awful foundations. It's going to collapse. And so the mindset part of it is foundational. It is the most important part.
I get it. And then you bring the body. Tell me a bit about the body and the voice and the language. How does it all fit in then?
There was a gentleman by the name of Albert Mehrabian who did a study back in the 60s about communication. And through what he did, he determined that 55% of people's judgments or value of another individual were based on purely how they looked. Nothing to do with what they said, nothing to do with how they said it, purely based on how they look. In other words, how were they dressed?
Yeah.
What was their body language? Was it confident? Did they walk into the room upright, shoulders back? Or, did they walk in head bowed down, hands in pocket, unable to make eye connection? Body language is so, so important. And that's the first part. People see you, they make assumptions. Is this guy confident? Is he not confident?
Yeah.
And I say to
shoulders or
and I say to people all the time, you think about it. When was the last time you went to a networking event or a social event and you saw somebody that you didn't know and you looked at them and purely based on how they looked, you made a judgment that you either wanted to interact with them or you didn't?
Yeah, and when you see somebody for the first time, that's perhaps not the first time that person will see you. I mean, the person might be looking down, checking text or whatever, and head down, shoulder down, and you or perhaps a person is waiting for you for an interview as well. So you see that person for the first time, but that person doesn't see you for the first time. And I've already got in a predetermined idea. Is that what you say about that
Absolutely.
person? And then you will swing the conversation as well towards, okay, well, this guy's probably not really interested because he's sitting there on his head down and swiping through his Tinder account or whatever.
We are wired for bias.
Yeah.
We're human beings, and right, wrong, or indifferent, our beliefs are developed as we've had experiences in life. And whether that's based on gender, whether it's based on race, whether it's based on skin color, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying it's right, but it's fact.
Yes.
It's fact. And so we will make predetermined judgments purely based on how someone looks.
Yeah, and it probably comes a little bit from evolution as well, from the old times. We're all hunters and gatherers. You want people that's alert, that's going to be able to fit into your tribe.
Tribe, absolutely. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
very much so.
And that's the people that you see can have a conversation with them as well. And then the language is the other pillar as well. And
our voice, and I learned recently, it's a great saying, when people see you, they make assumptions, but when you open your mouth, they form beliefs.
Oh, I like that.
And the power of our voice it cannot be understated. And in fact, going back to Albert Mehrabian, 38% of people's value judgment is based on how we sound. Now, and you can be a 10 out of 10 in your field, and whether that's in your numbers, as an accountant, as an engineer, it doesn't matter. You can be the smartest guy, but if your communication skills don't match that, you will only ever be judged at the lowest common denominator. So if your communication skills are a 3, but your expertise in your field is a 10, you'll only ever be seen as a 3.
Yeah, that is a little bit. I wouldn't say it's hence the fact how important communication is, and how cruel the world can also be. Because I can be this most excellent neuroscientist, but if I won't be able to bring it across, I might be the best in my field, but because exactly what you said. If I'm not the best communicator, I might be seen inferior to. I'm trying to over having you in a studio. I'm just digressing now. I'm talking as I'm in a dentist now. So I'm trying to show my teeth, and so I'm trying to overemphasize my words here now, and I think it's good practice as well, isn't it? When you're talking to somebody, is perhaps do it. And because you want to make your voice sound that you are talking with confidence, talking from power, from knowledge. Hey, mate, I know this. I know what's going to happen with your budget next month. If your GP is too low, you need to increase your prices, and that's the way that it's probably going to bring it over. And I've seen it in my clients as well. It's like, oh yeah, your GP is a bit low. I don't know what you're going to do. You might have to increase your prices.
There you go.
Yeah, and that is the essence what you're trying to say as well. And interesting about a language now. There's a little bit of a bloke here, a South Australian. Vin is his name. Vin Jang.
Vin Jang.
Vin Jang. Yeah.
Vin Jang is my hero. He is an absolute superstar.
Yeah.
He spent many years in the US, and he's speaks to, works with Google, the biggest companies you can think of, and Vin is the absolute. He's at the peak of Mount Everest from a communication perspective, and I love listening to him and always learn something from him.
I did listen to a podcast he had actually on, I think it was a Diary of a CEO, where he talked about your voice. Your voice is an instrument. And he talked about his experience when he was a little kid, because he's Vietnamese, and then he couldn't read English, was his third language or something. And his English teacher just said, keep in mind, your voice is like an instrument and you want to use it to play a symphony. Now, how would you be able to tell people what your beliefs about it is?
Oh, he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Vin says is, from a body language perspective, you can buy the clothes, you can buy the suit, but you can't buy the voice.
That's right.
So you can tick the first box, body language and that appearance, but unless you understand how to effectively use your, as he says, instrument, then you're judged on that.
And hit the right notes or chords.
And hit exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And how do you do that? I mean, it's
practice.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's practice.
And you need a bit of coaching. You need a con in your life to.
You do. And here's a fact: 95% of what we do is subconscious. And I always say to people, I can get up in the morning and go from my bedroom into my kitchen and make my first cup of coffee pretty much with my eyes closed. Like it's just so deeply hardwired. And everything we do is the same. It's a habit. It's a hardwired behavior. But unless we become conscious of that behavior, we can't change it. And the story that I always tell when I first started my speaking journey some 10, 11 years ago, the feedback I always got was that I moved on stage too much. And I always said, what do you know? Nah. Until somebody recorded me. And it reminded me, the duck in the shooting gallery, ping, da-da-da, ping, da-da-da, ping.
Yeah.
And that was me.
Uh-huh.
But I had to become aware of that behavior, had to become conscious, so I could then go, okay, now I realize it. Now I need to put steps into place to change it. And so becoming aware and conscious of whatever our behaviors are, whether it's the way we use our voice, whether it's our body language, the language that we use, until we're conscious of it, we can't change it.
That's yeah. That's I agree. It's 100%. You're right. But what if I got a boring voice, or people tell me you got a boring voice, you'll never be a good speaker, you'll never be able to bring your point across. Is there something like a boring voice?
Well, absolutely.
Can
There's
you
a boring
change it?
voice. So if I've got fairly good vocal projection, if I spoke like this at the same tone and I didn't slow down at all and I kept speaking at this pace, and even though
Gonna
that
fall
I
asleep,
said,
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
So there is absolutely is a boring voice. The brain recognizes patterns, and as soon as it recognizes patterns, it turns off. The key ingredient is to have vocal variety, so the brain remains engaged and you have that audience retention. Now, how can you do that? Read passages, read books. Movie scripts are great. I love using movie scripts, particularly, for those of you.
Sylvester Stallone.
I'm a big Jack Nicholson fan.
Oh,
A Few Good Men.
I love that. Yeah, can you do that speech for us?
I wish, I wish I could, Johan.
Yeah.
But that courtroom scene with Tom
Yeah.
Cruise and Jack Nicholson, that is just.
That's a great.
And I print that off and I give it to my one-on-one coaching clients, and I go, okay, now read this, and practice, and pause, inflection, increase tone, decrease tone. If I'm making a point with you, you're speaking to your client about the numbers and the absolute importance of their GP, and they're just not getting it, and their GP's consistent, and you're working really, really hard, you're giving them, and I'm talking to you, and I'm going, Johan, here's an area that we really need to improve. Con, can you imagine being able to buy that new car that you want or that home? I really want you to focus on listening to this point.
Yep. I love that.
The brain is automatically, he's slowing down. It must be important. I'm going to focus.
Slowing down and say it with a little bit more power towards the end. Perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great. Yeah.
And so we can, unless there's a physical impediment in your voice, you can change it. How do people become actors and master different accents? Because they practice, because they learn techniques and strategies. So everybody can do that. It's just that you're prepared to put the work into do it.
Yeah, it just seems like so. When you look at some of the comedians doing all the different different accents of different people, politicians, and actors around the world, it just seems mind-boggling. How the hell did they get it right? But I guess it is. It's like you say, it is practice, and you got to have that belief that you can do it. So what do I do if I always like it. There's a few scripts that I, for instance, like. I like the one from, I think it's Rocky 5 or Rocky 6, where he talks to his son, where he said, "Now let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very hard and mean place." How do I, but now when I do that, when I practice that, I read it to myself sometimes, but I don't want to sound like Rocky, like Sylvester Stallone. I want to sound like me. And I want to say to my clients, the world is, if you're not going to adapt and focus on your numbers, you're going to, you're going to be in this victim states the whole time. How do I?
You just did it.
How do I? Yeah, but you're not going to be the actor, or you're not going to be the.
But what I'm saying is when you listen to this back, the way that you said it after you'd used the Rocky voice, the way that you did it was different to the way that you were speaking before.
All right.
There was more emphasis on certain words. The only other aspect there is practice slowing down.
Slowing down.
One of the biggest challenges people have is they speak too quickly.
Okay.
And there's a multitude of reasons behind that. But slowing down creates more impact and more emphasis and more attention.
I love the way you say that. And you bring the pauses in as well, and the silence. It's almost like you're framing your words a little bit, isn't it?
So you imagine say exactly what you said before about the importance of, the numbers, exactly what you said before, but I want you to slow it down.
Yeah.
I want you to slow it down.
The world is a very hard and mean place. And that is the same as in business. Life and business is not just sunshine and rainbows. You have to focus on your numbers.
There you
You
go.
can't give the excuse for him or her or anybody else. You have to go out and do it yourself.
There you go.
Would it work?
There you go.
Okay.
Completely different.
Completely. But that is
Johan.
me practicing it now. And then when I'm in a meeting, I probably somebody else would throw something, so I wasn't prepared. But how do I deal with that?
Doesn't matter. Slow down.
Slow down.
Just slow down. I'm a massive sports fan. I'm a sports nut.
Yes.
Now,
What's your sports?
I love Aussie rules.
Okay.
I love AFL. My beloved Crows got beaten last night, but that's another story. But what do the commentators say? It doesn't matter whether it's football, cricket. It doesn't matter what sport it is. If a team is getting a bit of a run on, the commentators generally say that the other team need to slow the game down. They need to keep possession.
Exactly.
So, if you're in a meeting and people are firing at you, you can't be consumed by the moment and be dictated by their emotional state. What you've got to do is just stop, wait, and rather than react, respond.
Okay.
That's all it is. Don't be caught up. Don't be... Somebody's saying, hey, Johan, I want an answer now. Come on, hurry up. Well,
Give me a minute.
Yeah. Look, I understand it's very, very important and you're looking for a response. But here's what I believe we need to do. Take control of the conversation.
And I see how you've actually stopped. Here's what we got to do. And then you stopped for quite a while. And then so everybody, okay, what? We're listening to you now. And then you can give your point of proof. Okay, I'll use that next time. I'll use it next couple of weeks when we've got our Polaris meeting. And
I look forward to that.
And everybody's throwing stuff at me, and they say, "Come on, give me the answer now. What is the what is the profits gonna be like for that business or whatever?" And then you talked about your pauses as well. But what about breathing? How do I breathe in between? Because breathing is important, isn't it?
Well, if you don't breathe, you die.
So I know.
It's a fundamental body behavior.
But it calms you down as well.
Breath is important.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's important. When we slow down, we get an opportunity to breathe as well. If I'm speaking and I don't stop and I just keep talking at this pace, and eventually I'm going to run out of breath.
Yeah.
But if I slow it down, I can catch my breath, I can breathe normally, and I can still say what I have to say with far more impact, far more purpose, and far more influence.
I think I want to slow down the conversation for the rest of our time here in the studio as well. All right, I'm trying to be funny, but where does humor come into communication? Should I try to be funny if I'm not really funny, or if you think you're funny? And people sometimes laugh when you're in a pub. Should I use that when I'm talking about numbers? I don't think you're going to make a profit this year, mate. But at least won't pay any taxes.
Taxes. There's one.
Yeah.
His humor is important.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah.
At the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody is naturally humorous. There's definitely an art to it. I'm a big fan of it, but at the right time. We need to be authentic. In other words, don't try and force things that don't come naturally or you haven't practiced. If you're speaking, and again, Who are you speaking to? One of the key elements of being an effective communicator is understanding who your audience is. Now, when I say audience, just let me clarify for everybody here. I say to people, when I say public speaking, what image do you have? And the majority of people will respond with somebody standing on a stage speaking to a large group. But the fact is that public speaking is just another form of communication. And Johan, what you and I are doing right now, the strategies and the tools that I use and implement are exactly the same that I would use and implement speaking to a larger group.
Yeah.
So the skills are exactly the same.
100%.
So you need to know your audience. I need to know Johan when I'm having a conversation with him. Is Johan serious? Can he take a joke? I need to know these things before I'm going to use them. Does Johan swear?
Yes.
I'm not going to. I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to swear when I think I'm being funny, when it's going to offend the other person.
Yeah.
So we need to be really, really conscious of the other person or your audience in terms of what are they going to best respond to.
Okay, so learning your audience. So you're gonna do a talk now for 100 people in the room. So let's say the Polaris group ask you, Con, you need you to come and give us a talk about public speaking and communication. But you don't really know your audience. You got a fair. What do you do? Do you try to envisage? Okay, it's going to be the audience is going to be full of Johans there, and it's
Okay. Well, I do know who the audience is because and we'll use the Polaris Centre as an example here.
Yes.
They're targeting businesses. It's a business orientated enterprise.
Yep.
And so therefore the people that they're going to invite are typically going to be business people. Now, I don't know every person individually in terms of are they a Johan, are they a Con, are they a Sasha? I don't know them individually. But what I do know is it's business related. So that's the first thing. I know they're business people. The second thing is I need to understand what outcome is the client, or in this case, the Polaris Centre, what outcome are they trying to achieve? Are they trying to educate the people in sales? Is it speaking? Is it providing evaluations? What outcome are they looking for? That's going to determine my content.
That makes sense. That makes 100% sense.
Right? So you need to know not necessarily individually who your audience is, but as a macro, who are they? Are they business people? What language are they going to understand? As a presenter, you need to tailor your language to the lowest common denominator.
Okay.
All right? And one of the dangers that we have, and I see this with tech people a lot, is the use of acronyms. By the way, we need to get this FYZP done, in FQ.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of backroom work on this one and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Right? And so if I don't understand what you're talking about, I'm lost. I'm disengaged. I've switched on.
But you might have a talk just to tech savvy people.
That's
but
different.
You need to know that
as well. Exactly right.
Yeah.
But again, you could be speaking to a whole heap of tech savvy people, but then it's dangerous to make an assumption that they're all at the same level. They might be tech, but are they all at the same level?
That's right. And I mean, I guess our accountants are also sometimes a little bit guilty of that, because you throw in stuff RAA and LWV and CAG and
EBLET
and EBITDA and EBITDA and
So what are they?
Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah.
If somebody's speaking to me and using acronyms, from a human nature perspective, a lot of people are using big words and acronyms to make themselves look intelligent. they think it's a positive thing. Oh, I'm going to use big words, and
Yeah.
Johan's going to be really impressed. But Johan's not impressed because
he doesn't-
Johan didn't understand a word I said,
Yeah.
and so Johan has become disengaged and disinterested. So my level of influence has diminished significantly.
Yeah, and Johan is too shy to stand up and say, "Con, what does EBITDA mean?"
Yeah.
Can you? Yeah,
Sorry, Johan, can you explain that, please?
yeah, I get it. Yes, know what the outcome is, understanding your audience, and read your audience as well.
And that's
Yeah.
reading your audience. That's
Yeah.
the other thing. Go back to pausing. I mean, pausing is a superpower in communication.
Yep.
Because when I pause, it creates this tension, this interest. But what it's also doing, it's giving me an opportunity as the speaker to survey, see what's going on, read the audience. It's giving the audience an opportunity to process what I've said before I move on to the next point. Pausing is typically people are uncomfortable with silence.
People are uncomfortable with silence. But you're gonna get situations where you're in a meeting and you want to bring your point across, and everybody's sitting down, and you're going to talk slowly, and then you're going to pause, and there's always one or two pricks in the meeting that's going to try and interrupt you when you're having the pause. How do you deal with that then?
If somebody's interrupting you, here's a really good strategy.
Yeah.
And particularly if you know them. So here's a couple of things.
Yeah.
If you know them, if I know Johan's a serial interrupter,
Yes.
I'm going to approach Johan at the beginning of the meeting, and I'm going to say, Johan, really appreciate your contribution and listening to your perspective. I'm speaking for 5 to 7 minutes today. I'd love to address your questions. Would it be okay if I finished, and then I'd be really, really happy to address your questions? And get their permission so they're actually conscious of it.
You'll have a talk with me before the meeting.
Absolutely. If I know you're a serial interrupter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I don't know you and we've sat down in a meeting and you keep chirping up and interrupting, I'm going to stop. I'm going to let you finish, and then I'm going to say, Johan, really appreciate your perspective. Very valuable. That's something that I am going to cover later on. Would it be okay if to finish my presentation, and I'd be happy to take your questions later?
I get it.
So actually put them on the spot and get their permission, right? Their agreeance. And if they butt in again, just remind them that, Johan, again, value what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Mentioned it earlier. Would it be okay if I finished? And I'm more than happy to address your questions.
Okay. No, thanks for that. I'll use it next time.
But it's about letting them finish rather than getting into a verbal stoush, a battle.
Because I get angry, and it's almost like, and then you start talking over the other person start talking over, and then we're not going anywhere with the discussion.
So if Johan's chirp, there's no point in me trying to interrupt and get my point across because Johan's not focused. I'm going to let Johan finish what he's saying. Then I'm going to.
Thanks for clearing that, and I think our listeners will take a lot of value out of that as well. Talking about listening, that is important as well, isn't it? We've got
2 ears and 1 mouth.
2 ears and 1 mouth.
We should use them in those proportions.
Yes. Yeah.
When you're listening, you're learning. When you're speaking, you're not. And if you're and I'll use it from a sales perspective, more than 2/3 of the interaction, if I'm a salesperson and I'm in a sales interaction with you, should be asking quality questions and listening to get a deep understanding of what the problem is and what outcomes you're looking to achieve. Because the more I ask you questions, the more you reveal, and the more I understand.
Yeah.
The more I learn, we may have been speaking about my group coaching, but the more I listen to you, I get a better understanding that the better way to go for you to get the outcomes that you want as quickly is actually one-on-one coaching.
So have you ever been with all your years in sales, have you been in situations that you actually go to a big sales pitch and you actually don't talk a lot, and the client will actually start talking to you, and you realize, well, I actually probably said like 2 or 3 sentences and I've sealed the deal because the client just keeps on talking. Is that what
They sell themselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They sell themselves. One thing I learned, a gentleman by the name of Kerwin Ray, who is passed away recently, and for those of you who follow social media and business, you'll probably know who he is. So Kerwin's was leading business strategist, worked with companies both in Australia and overseas, and he had what he called was his sales quadrant.
Okay.
And fundamentally, it was identifying what the problem is. In other words, asking questions. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey.
Yeah, that's a great book. Yeah.
It's not mentioned in his book, but he was working with 25 Fortune 500 CEOs, and he asked them, what does time management mean? How many different responses do you think he got? So out of 25 individuals, there were 24 different responses. So the reality is that time management to one person meant something else to another and to another. And the terminology that I may use means something to me, but it might mean something different to you. So I need to ask qualifying questions. So if Johan says to me, it's a profit problem. Okay, Johan, what does profit look like? What is it? Are we talking about gross, net? What are we talking here? Oh yeah, no, it's my gross profit's the problem. Okay, so we're asking questions to be crystal clear on what the problem is. Because if we don't know what the problem is, we can't offer a solution. So that's the first part.
Yep.
The second part is identifying the pain point. In other words, Johan, you've identified that, you want some help on increasing your net profit. How is that impacting your life at the moment? Well, Con, I'm not making enough money. Mate, I'm working, 16 hours a day. I'm not seeing my family. Right, yeah, okay. And
No money in the bank.
There's no money in the bank.
Yeah.
Okay. How's that impacting you? How's that impacting your relationships, Johan? Oh, my wife's, she's threatened to leave me, and okay, and you just keep prodding.
Yeah.
You just keep prodding. What like for awareness of how severe this problem is. Great, Johan. If I could wave a magic wand, and we could fix this problem, what does it look like? Oh, I'd have more time to spend with my family. I'd spend more time with my wife. We'd be able to go on date nights, and fantastic. Okay, and on you go. So then you're offering your solution. Johan,
Okay.
we can fix this. My one-on-one coaching program is da 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 da. You've identified that you're the decision maker, that the budget's there, and if they go, oh, what, $5,000? Okay, well, Johan, you've just explained to me that this problem is $50,000, $60,000, $100,000.
Yeah. Look at that.
12
return.
months.
Yeah.
So am I missing something here? $5,000 to fix. Okay. So you're becoming really, really, really clear on what the problem is and identifying that way.
I love it.
And it's slow, right? And you might not ask this question, but I'm going to give you the answer, and I'm going to give you the question, because this is probably, if anybody is listening in sales, listen and listen good.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you picked up the phone, or you've gone to go into a meeting, and the client says, "Oh, mate, mate, I've only got 5 minutes. Can you rush through this?" And the salesperson will get all flustered.
Yes.
And they
Be
go,
there.
okay, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, we can do this and we can do that, and it's going to cost you $15,000 and da da da, and away they go. And the bloke said, "Yep, no worries, fantastic. We'll be in touch." And they're never in touch. If somebody says to you, "Look, can you rush this through?" Johan, appreciate your time's an issue just at the moment, but what I've got to share with you can't be dealt with in 5 minutes. And for me to be able to provide the value that you're looking for, I need more time. When would be a better time for us to catch up?
But you might lose that deal.
You're going to lose it anyway.
Yeah.
You're losing it anyway because
Yeah.
you haven't had an opportunity to really find out what the problem is and therefore what the solution is. So you've lost them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So there's no way that you can actually fit in what you want to say in that 5 minutes if the client like flustered. Okay, I've got 5 minutes. I'm listening. Okay, start talking.
But if you're not really clear on what the problem is and what the outcome is that they're looking for, how can you possibly provide a solution?
Yes.
Does your services, is it a one size fits all?
No, definitely not. No.
The other example I say to people is we all have, as business people, we have a myriad of aspects to our business. And if I said to you, "Johan, let's sit down I've got 10 minutes, tell me about your business," what are you going to tell me about? Where are you going to start? You can't possibly tell me everything in 10 minutes.
I want to start with the client's problem.
There you go.
I need the client to talk.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's right. Well, I mean, I can tell you what I can do in a brief, but I need to know a zone in
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And
Johan, appreciate you don't have the time now.
Okay.
What I've got to share with you, right, to get a deeper understanding and be able to help you, right, or provide value, I can't do it in 5 minutes. So tell me when would be a better time that you would have. I need 15 minutes. When would be a good time to have 15 minutes?
Yeah. Okay, now here's a bit of a scenario. We're going to do a bit of a case study. Are you okay with that?
I'm fine.
All right, I'm going to the network session.
Yes.
And it sort of like slots in what you say, because I don't have 5 minutes now. I only probably got like 30 seconds. So I've got a minute, but I'll explain to you. So I'm running a bit. So let's say I've got a business. I've got a digital marketing company, and my focus, my target market is tradie businesses. So I'm very good at digital marketing, social media, website development. And I go to this network session because I know there will be a few prominent tradie people there. And I walk into, and there on the other side of the room, I know him, he doesn't know me. I see Mr. Flush Gordon. Now, Flush Gordon is the CEO of a big plumbing company. So I go to, and I say, "Oh, geez, okay, I need to go and talk to Flush. And I need to basically, and I know he's got a crap website, and I know he needs some help there, but I need to get my point across. I'm Johan, I've got a digital marketing company, and I want to engage Flush, and I've only got 30 seconds. How do I do it now?"
Okay.
And that's at a network session. And a lot of people probably don't like network sessions.
A lot of people don't like networking.
Yeah.
That is a fact. But networking is one of the most important parts of business for a number of reasons, not just because the potential to generate business. There's a multitude of reasons why we should all network. But going back to your case study.
Okay. Now you've got to speak to Flush.
I've walked in, I've got to speak to Flush. The first thing I've got to look for is an opportunity to speak to him. Now, we need to be aware of his body language and the way that he's speaking with other people. In other words, if he's in a closed environment, he's not open to have anybody else in a conversation.
Yeah, but it's a network session.
Doesn't matter.
He's having a beer or something.
Well, he's having a beer, but if there's 4 of us and we're in a tight circle and there's no gap, that's suggesting that we're having a private conversation and that there's no room. So that's the first thing. You've got to be aware of that. You got to look for opportunity. Now, if he's having a casual conversation, open body language, there's a big gap there, right? You can stroll in.
Yeah.
Listen for a while, right? When there's an opportunity. Flesh, my name's Johan. Pleasure to meet you. The next question is we need to be interested in other people.
Exactly.
We're reciprocal. So there's a law of reciprocity. If I do something for you, you feel almost obligated to do something for me. I can't go in and go, Flesh, my name's Johan. Mate, we're so good at digital marketing and I've seen your website and it's crap and I know we can help you, because he's not receptive to that. You've got to build rapport. You've got to build a relationship with that person. And it's, Flesh, name's Johan from it, right? Flesh, what brought you here today?
Yeah.
Your focus is on creating a relationship with this person, not on selling your product.
Okay.
People buy from people they know, like, and trust. He doesn't know you. You don't know if he likes you. And at this stage, he definitely doesn't trust you, particularly if you come across really hardcore. So it's about, Flesh, what brought you here today? Have a conversation. Be aware of what he's saying so you've got verbal cues on how you can continue the conversation. When eventually, so Johan, what do you do?
Yeah.
Right.
Then I'll pitch my...
Then. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a little simple pitch formula.
Okay. Listen carefully, listeners.
Identify the problem. Identify what it would look like with a solution, and then how you provide that solution.
Can you say that again? Identify
the problem.
Yep.
Identify what it would look like solved, and then how you do it. Example, marketing, dealing with tradespeople. Flesh says, so Johan, tell me, what do you do?
Flush, not flash.
Flesh. I'm thinking Flesh Gordon.
No, Flush.
Flash Gordon, Flush. Flush, of course, he's a plumber.
Yeah.
He's a plumber, there you go.
Okay.
Flush. Do you have challenges with your website? Are you having issues of low engagement? Imagine if you could do this, this, and this, and your leads were automatically converted. We provide strategies where we can increase engagement and improve conversion. And the next question from Flush, that's really interesting, Johan.
Yeah.
How do you do that? So it's about identifying what a problem is, how it's going to be solved, and what you do.
Okay.
And that's
That
it.
is- that
it's
is-
really,
that is
really
gold.
simple.
I think we can take the day off and go and play golf now.
You don't
That
want
is-
to play golf with me, mate. Trust me, I'm no good.
Not am
I'm
I.
no good.
Yeah.
I'm not a golfer.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a good takeaway.
Right.
Yeah.
And in what I do, people say, what do you do? Been to a networking event lately where you were just absolutely terrified to speak?
Oh, it happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Imagine if you could be really, really confident and just walk up to anybody, a complete stranger, and start a conversation, but not only start it, but maintain it.
Maintain it.
What I do is I help people with strategies to make them more effective communicators and be comfortable with networking.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, whenever I'm gonna come and see you on that one. I mean, I like the network. I like the social part of it, but you gotta focus the reason why you're there. You know, you can't.
It's not networking. It's
you
not
can't
networking.
just go there to drink beer and talk footy.
Well, as some people do.
Yeah. The whole idea is to make connections, and everybody there is there for the same reason.
Of course.
We want to make connections as well. Now, yeah, and the other case study would be now it's a total flip it around. I've got a business. It's not a sales problem, but it's a efficiency problem. Me as a businessman, and my job, I talk to people a lot about focus on efficiencies. So one of my employees, for instance, doesn't cut the mustard. He's always late. He doesn't focus on his KPIs. So he's not interested in the work. But I know there's so much there behind this person. He could really, really be good. How do I approach him and get him to sit down and explain to Harry, for instance, Harry, how do I, without him being offended, I need to motivate him now to really step up, because we're going to lose out on production and efficiencies, and he's going to affect everybody else's morale in the company if he doesn't step up.
The prime objective of, we'll call it staff reviews or performance evaluations, the prime motivation should be to uplift, provide feedback that is going to help that individual improve, because if they improve, the organisation is going to improve. So that should be the prime reason. Now, I'll talk about that, because there are cases and situations where Johan he's had enough of Harry. He doesn't want Harry anywhere near the place. So he's beyond help. And it's like, Harry, here's what it is. If you can't meet these objectives, this is your second warning. You're out the door. See you later. All right. So that's the case where you don't want him. But
that's right.
If you value him, I want you to imagine this. If you walked into my office and the first thing that came out of my mouth was negative, immediately what happens, you get your back up. Fight or flight kicks in.
Yeah, I'm going to be defensive.
And you become defensive. I need to get Harry comfortable. So my conversation is, Harry, I'd love to have a chat about where you're going in the organisation. When's a good time? 5 o'clock Wednesday? Fantastic. Look forward to having you. Great. Wednesday comes in. I'm going to have a conversation with Harry, not sitting behind my big desk and him sitting opposite me. I'm going to have a conversation with him in a more casual setting that makes him feel relaxed. Okay. And I'm going to start with, what are some positive aspects of Harry? Harry, thanks for sitting down. Really appreciate. I just want to mention, I've had some really positive feedback from Johan, who's running company XYZ. He's told me that your product knowledge is second to none, and he's really, really impressed with that. And I want to congratulate you on that. I'd also like to mention that Jennifer in accounts has been so complimentary about your delivery of reports which are on time, because it's important. If she doesn't get them on time, management don't get them, we can't make decisions. So I want to congratulate you. Harry, I see you as a really important part of this organisation. And there's a couple of areas that I feel that if we can improve on this, it's going to provide a really positive outcome. Is that okay? So at this stage, Harry's pretty relaxed and comfortable, isn't he?
Yeah.
Harry, I just want to mention clothing. We have a really strong brand in terms of our dress. And the feedback that I'm getting is that you're not meeting that standard. Now, that has a reflection not only on you, but it has a reflection on our organisation and the opportunities that it presents. What I'm going to suggest is that you use the company wear with our logo and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And
then wind up with, Harry, really grateful for you taking the time to have a chat with me. Really value what you're doing. And please, I'm here for you if there's anything I can do to help. So Here's the key elements. I'm starting off with some positive feedback. The feedback that I'm giving him, the constructive feedback, not constructive criticism. Constructive's like putting lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig.
Yeah.
Right? Constructive feedback.
Yeah.
I'm telling him what the issue is, the impact that it's having, and how he can address it. Key elements. What the problem is, the impact that it's having, and how it needs to be. So I need to tell him impact and the solution. And then wind up with, and that's the perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. So you almost sandwich it.
Yeah, well, I fail me using poor language here. It is from a human resources. It's the SHIT sandwich, they call it. And you can call it anything you like, but the fact is, from a psychological perspective, it works.
It works. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It works. And show him. But you don't want to sugarcoat stuff too much as well.
It's not sugarcoating
Yeah,
it. It's
not
just, you
sugarcoat,
can
yeah.
tell them what it is.
Yeah.
And Harry, if you can't maintain these dress standards, then that's going to impact the likelihood of you working with us moving forward. So it's not about sugarcoating it, but it's about starting off, getting him feeling comfortable about what he is, positive, before you get into the areas that need improvement.
That's yeah. That's great. Thanks for that. I mean, so many golden nuggets coming out of this discussion. I wish we had more time. We probably is there anything that I might have that I probably missed today? I mean, I still probably want to talk to you about body language, and we can perhaps touch on that quickly as well. You did talk about authenticity.
Authenticity. Yeah.
Authenticity. How important that is. I heard somebody once said, authenticity is your cultural currency, which sounds very profound, I'll say. But
Well, it is.
yeah, but the way I see it as a financial person, currency is the thing that you got that can get you everything. If you get $1, if you get enough dollars is only one thing, but it can basically get you everything.
It's not the dollars; it's what the dollars can do.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's the
So,
currency.
so here, let me tell you something as a really important thing from a numbers perspective, and you and I have spoken about this. And in my training, I have a lot of people who are numbers people, whether they're, accountants or, in that area.
Yep.
And they go, well, how can I present numbers and make it interesting? Facts tell, stories sell.
Okay. Facts tell, stories sell.
If you're in a presentation with me and I rattle off a whole heap of facts, you're not going to remember half of them. But if I intertwine some stories that relate to those numbers, you're going to remember the stories.
I love stories.
How information from the prehistoric days, how was information passed? It was passed down by stories. It wasn't passed down by, you need to take a club that's 15 feet long in 30-inch diameter and then strike the woolly mammoth on the left leg. It was, we hunted. We had these implements that were, cut from these massive trees with our bare hands, and we, as a tribe, we stalked these woolly mammoths to be able to provide food and clothing for our families. And it doesn't matter what numbers you are, if you can relate those numbers using an analogy, a story. If I said to you, unemployment rate is now, it's gone up to 5%. Okay, to the average punter.
So what does that mean? Yeah.
Exactly. But if I said to you, unemployment has gone up by 5%, for every 1%, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm making these numbers up on the fly, so don't ring Johan and say, well, these facts aren't correct.
Oh, that's a disclaimer you've had.
This is a disclaimer.
Okay. Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
this is a disclaimer. So if I said, Johan, unemployment's at 5%.
Yeah.
For every 1% unemployment, that means that 5,000 men in your suburb have lost their jobs. 5,000 families can potentially be homeless.
Yeah.
5,000 families. not able to educate their children. All of a sudden, the unemployment number means something.
It does. And it sort of like trigger my response. It's like I get a bit nervous. Hey, we got to do something with this unemployment rate.
You're sitting down with somebody and their gross profit, you can see their gross profit, net profit, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It gets to a point where potentially it's going to create insolvency.
Yeah.
You tell them, do you want to lose your house? How will the family react when the wife goes to pay for the groceries and the credit card's declined?
Yes.
Or you have to take your son out of St. Peter's College and send him to Strathalbyn High. All of a sudden, there's an emotional attachment to what those numbers mean.
That's
We're emotional creatures.
we are. Yeah. We're emotional creatures, but we're dealing with very sophisticated facts in life as well. And we want to tell stories. We want the rocket scientists, and we want the accountants and the lawyers and everybody to be able to tell us. If you want to go to the doctor, you don't want to hear him telling, "Oh, you got some sort of Latin name kind of problem here," and you're back. He's probably got to be telling you, well, there's a bit of a problem in your back, and if you don't do anything about it, in 2 years' time you might be in a wheelchair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a great book.
Well, you don't want him to tell you that, but
No.
Yeah.
There's a great book by a guy by the name of Craig Wortman.
Yes.
Craig Wortman, and it's about storytelling. It's called What's Your Story? A fantastic book, and I encourage everybody to read it because it not only identifies the importance of being a good storyteller, but how we can create our stories.
Yeah. What you say now is something that I've heard. It's not, I didn't coin the phrase. So I can't remember who said it. Instead of reporting, relive it. Isn't yeah.
Yeah. Again,
Yeah.
people don't, when they're sharing a story, an experience, most people just report it. I went here and I did that, and we had that, and it cost $27. And instead of reliving the story, we went there, and my God, I still remember the chandeliers in that room. They were just so amazing, and the light that it cast down. The dance floor was just like, dancing on that dance floor. And then when my wife looked me in the eyes, it was just, my heart just skipped a beat.
I like the way you
Rather than, we went to
sounds
this
so
club.
romantic.
We went to this club, and they had some pretty cool lights, and I stood there and saw this pretty hot chick.
She's all right. Yeah,
she's all right. And I say to people, don't become a good storyteller, become a great storyteller.
Yes. Can we all do it? Can we all tell stories?
Can you learn a different language?
I don't know.
Well, of course you can. You can learn a different language. You can learn a different accent.
Yeah.
You can change your body shape. We can change anything that we want.
Change your mind.
And if we want to work on a particular skill, and we're committed, we'll make the time.
Well, Con, thanks for your time, mate. What we still need to talk a lot. We'll have to get you in a lot. We have to get you. I mean, it's so important, really. What you said here is absolute gold. I really appreciate it, and I think I've got a lot of takeaways from this meeting. Just a quick shout out as well. We're both on the Polaris mentorship panel. Yes. Polaris is helping me a little bit of, they're sponsoring the show, contribute a little bit towards the show
lovely.
As well. So that's great. So just a little bit of a shout out to Polaris as well. We know them. They're in Salisbury. They're funded by the city of Salisbury. And they do, and I think you're also involved with some of the business fundamentals that they
yes presentations. My first presentation is
Yeah.
23rd of April, I think. Yeah.
That's great. The Business Fundamentals is a great course. So people get in touch with Polaris. We'll put the show notes on here. Tell about us quickly about what you got, what your plans. Now, keep in mind, this program will only be screened or only be published in a couple of weeks from now or towards the end of April. So what's coming up in May, June that people can get involved, helping get Con to help them to be showman, showmanship, showwomanship.
Well, not I wouldn't say showmanship. What I would say is become better and more effective communicators.
Yes,
and that's important. In answer to your question, what have I got? I have my signature confidence speaking and communication workshop, which begins on June the 7th. That is
great timing.
That is it's on Saturday mornings, 9 till 12, and it goes for 5 weeks. And I touch on the key fundamentals, and I talk about the 4 pillars: psychology, body language, vocal tonality, language. I teach people one of the most important strategies, impromptu speaking strategies, your ability to come up with a coherent, cogent response on the fly. And it's something that a lot of our politicians learn in media training. So it's a very, very powerful skill. It's limited to 10 people because it's effectively one-on-one coaching in a group environment. Very interactive,
Yes.
challenges participants. As I said, that starts on June the 7th. And because June 7th, Saturday, June 7th, yeah.
And it's for how many weeks again?
5 weeks.
5 weeks, okay.
And it will be the last one.
The last
Come
one.
On. Because I'm working on some, as I said right at the beginning of the program, I'm working on some very exciting projects, and time is limited. So
we got to clone you.
You got to clone me.
Got to clone.
So yes, confident speaking communication, 5 weeks. Participants have described it as life-changing, transformational, and it's very quickly. I'll tell you a little story about a lady. She contacted me, lived in the Barossa, contacted me and wanted to know about the program, and said, yeah, this is what we do. This is how we do it. Said, yeah, okay. A long way to come. Go, okay, yep. No, well, here we are. I said, there's only 3 places left. Right. She rang me up, and legitimately there was 1 spot left. She got involved, and one of the things that I do is I get people to stand up in the workshop first session, introduce themselves, why they're here, just very, very briefly. This woman stood up, and I'll never forget this. She's looking around the room. She says, I've had to get up an hour and a half earlier than I normally do. I've driven from the Barossa Valley, and I'm not really sure why I'm here. Going, okay, this is pretty good. After session 3, she said to me, can I have a word? And of course, I'm thinking, oh, God, man. She wants a refund. She's not happy. There's a problem.
Yes.
I said, Con, I want to tell you that this has changed my life. Okay. Wow, that's a pretty big statement. So, well, do you mind sharing? She said, I'm in a job where I've been in for the last 10 years as a pharmaceutical rep, and nobody ever leaves our company. Nobody. She said, there's been a job that I've wanted to do for the last 6 years. She said, coming to your workshop gave me the courage to apply for that, and I got the job. She said, I start my new job in 2 weeks.
Yeah, good work.
And I'm gone, wow, that's pretty powerful. So, I don't understate this. Improving your communication skills can change your life in a positive sense.
Thanks, Con.
Johan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for the
That's
opportunity.
right. And just from me being a bean counter, I might just mention if they enlist in your course before the end of June and they got their own business, they can subtract it from tax as well. There we go.
There you go. You can give financial advice. I can't.
Well, I can't. I'm not a. I'm more. It's my job to help people pay more tax. People say what? I'm a management accountant, so I'm helping people to make more profit. And then if you make more profit, pay more tax. But who doesn't want to pay more tax if you can make more profit?
There you go.
Anyway, so that's it quickly. Just from my side as well as Con, I've also got a product that I'm launching in May, and it's called Financial Clarity for Business Success. Just as communication, you also need to be clear on your numbers. Am I right, Con?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to be right. You got to understand how your profit and loss interacts with your cash flow and your gross profit margin and your capital expenditure, and how does your KPIs fit in. So it's an 8-week course. It's online, and I really make it quite interactive, so probably not with all that finesse kind of communication, but the numbers there. But I'm not just going to give you a number. I'm not going to give you facts. I'm going to give you beautiful stories as well, and I'm going to make it really inviting. So that's a bit of a sales pitch for me at the end here as well. And thanks for backing me up there, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks everybody for listening. Con, thanks, mate.
Absolute pleasure, Johan. Thank you very much.
And this is me, Johan Zanik. This is a wrap from me, your number man. Ciao.